G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. We're now on our 9th part of the ArcGIS Enterprise Deployment series, but if you're joining us for the first time, it's all good. The playlist, the full playlist is down in the description, so have a look at that. But for the most part, this is a standalone video anyway. So what we're going to be doing here is setting up an Azure-hosted ArcGIS Enterprise Geodatabase, or ArcSDE is what it used to be called, is what I'm used to calling it. So if you hear me refer to it as ArcSDE, that's what I mean. Okay, so we have got a working ArcGIS server, we've got a working ArcGIS portal, we connected data store to server, and we federated both the server and portal together now. So the last step in this series is we're going to set up an Azure SQL Server Database. We're going to connect to it, get it ready, and then we're going to install ArcSDE on there and then connect it to ArcGIS Server. And from there, we'll test it all out and make sure it works throughout the full tech stack. All right, so let's get straight into it. First thing I'm going to do is actually set up the database and then install SQL Server Management Studio so we can do some changes to it. So get straight in. All right, over on the machine now, we can see we've got ArcGIS Server running, ArcGIS Portal running, and if we go into ArcGIS Server and have a look at the data stores here, we've got our relational data store, and that's valid and working, but we haven't got ArcSDE yet. So the first thing we're going to do is go into Azure and then search for Azure SQL. So you can just type it in, or I've already searched for it. So it's up here, and we can go Azure SQL Database. And we're going to create a new one. So create, and then if you're doing it in Azure, you can do it in a different cloud if you want, but you get this offer that you can apply, so you may as well just apply it, or you get a little bit of a discount when they try to bill you. Alright, so subscription can be the same. We're going to put it all in the same resource group as the other servers. And then for the database, it's going to create a database for you. So we can just call this, I don't know, you can call this whatever you want. So I'll just call it AGDB for ArcGIS Database. And then this is the server name, so this is going to be the hosting server name. Oh, actually no, we don't have a server already created, so we're going to create a new one. So we're going to go create new. And then this is the server name. We're just going to call it SDE-DB. You call it whatever you want. It needs to kind of be unique. So we're going to go for the Southeast Asia location, just because that's where all of our servers have been hosted. And in here, you can have Entra. If you know what that is, you can use Entra. That's kind of like Active Directory, I think. But we're just going to use SQL authentication. So we'll go down here. We'll go. You can either go both, or we'll go SQL, and then the admin, so we can just call this SDE admin. So this is like the database user, the database administrator account. You could call it, some people call it SA, yeah, however you want to call it. You might have conventions at work, I don't know. So I'll just call it SDE admin, and then the password, obviously make sure you remember this one. And we'll hit OK. Okay, so we've got our server set up here. You can set up your compute here as well for the hosting server. I think we go 2 core 32 gig. We can leave that as default. And we're good, so we'll go next. We do want public access because we're going to manage the server from our local machine. So make sure we turn on public access. Potentially, once it's turned off, once you've set it up, you may not need public access anymore if you're using it within your internal network or something. But for me, for my use case, we're just going to need to have it as public access, and then I will block other IPs, so I'll whitelist my own IP. So we'll go in here, public access allows services and resources to access the server. Yes, because we need ArcGIS to access it. Add my current IP address, there you go. So that way only our IP address can access. And we'll leave this as default, TLS 1.2, that's the one you want. And you can't choose anything else anyway. So we're gonna go next. We don't need any of these. I think we're all good here. We go review and create. And once it's ready, you can click the create button. So we'll go create. All right, and then while this deployment is in progress, you'll see it, working through and adding a few things to the resource group. We'll let this finish and then we'll cut back to connecting to the database. All right, so that deployment is completed now. If we go to resource, we've got our server name here, and then we already set up our admin account to be able to connect to it, right? So, and then when we went through the networking settings, we allowed our IP address to connect to this database. So we're pretty much good to go to connect to it, but what we need is some sort of client to connect to it too. And that's going to be SQL Server Management Studio, okay? So, I mean, like, you can use Heidi SQL or whatever you want later, but then you'll probably need to put in SQL commands to do what we need to do to prepare the database. So we're just going to go with SQL Server Management Studio for this video recording, and to cover most of our bases, because you can do it with a GUI instead. All right, so back over on the machine, SQL Server Management Studio is what we want, and then this is, you can see I've been here before, so we'll go up here. And then if we scroll down here, we can go into download SQL Server Management Studio 21, and we'll hit open on this, and then go yes, and then continue, and then just let this run. All right, so I don't think we need any of that. But we are going to need the core components, and we'll just hit install on that guy. And yeah, that'll take a little while to install. As I said, you can sort of use anything you want to connect to the database if you're used to. Essentially, all we need to do is create a login user account that's called SDE. That SDE needs login manager as well as database manager, and then we just need to create a new database to use as well. When we get to it, we will also need the SQL 17 ODBC driver from My Esri installed in your machine. So I'll show you how to do that through the My Esri website. I've already got it installed on this machine, and most people will have it installed already, right? Like if you've connected to SDE before, for example, you probably already got that on your machine, but I'll show you how to do that anyway after this is done installing. Okay, so back on the machine, we can see it's finished installing over here, and we can launch it. So let's just launch it. And let's just close some of these. We will need to go and get the server name, so I'll just leave that one up. All right, we'll just skip and add accounts later, I guess. And here we go. This is the new, some kind of AI feature, I think, so we're just going to go no. Okay, so the server name that we want to connect to is going to be back in our, over here in Azure is this one, server name, so we'll just hit copy on that. And then back over here, that's what we want to put into here. So this is going to be whatever you named when you set it up. We're not going to use Windows authentication, we're going to use SQL Server authentication, and then the login is the login that we set up before. So I called it SDE admin, and then put in the password, you can remember it, and we'll hit connect. All right, and then once we're in, go to security, expand logins. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new SDE login here. So we'll go right click, new login. We're going to call it SDE. It's got to be called SDE, don't call it anything else. And then put in a password. And make sure you remember that, because that's what we're going to use to create the SDE database. So we'll go OK, and that's SDE created. Now if you expand databases, you can see we've got the AGDB database. This is the database that you set up, well, Azure set up for us when we put in all the settings in the Azure side of things. So make sure you go up AGDB and you'll see this should just be an empty database ready for us to install SDE onto. But if you go to System Database, Master, Security, Users, you can see we don't have an SDE user in here yet. So we're going to do that with an SQL query. Go to New Query, actually, my mistake. You want to make sure this runs on Master. So right click on Master and go New Query. And then we're going to put in this query in here. It's going to be create user SDE from login SDE and then alter role login manager add member SDE. Okay, so we want to execute that. And once that completes successfully, we should refresh the user list and see SDE in there now. Okay, so that means our database is ready with SDE and is ready with an actual empty database for us to install Enterprise Geodatabase into. The next step is we need to run a geoprocessing tool in ArcGIS Pro. We can only access that tool if you have a standard or an advanced ArcGIS Pro license. Okay, so you will need to know how to go and set that up. I think you're installing ArcGIS Enterprise, you probably know how to set up your ArcGIS Pro with that licensing. Otherwise, you can also get those licenses from that ArcGIS portal that we got set up earlier. But I'll have to trust that you know how to get a standard or advanced license. Okay. The other thing you need to do to run the tool is be able to connect to the database. So you need an ODBC driver. I'll show you how to get that now. So back on the machine, if you go and Google My Esri, we can just download that driver off the My Esri website. So we go into My Esri and we go login. So go to downloads and then enterprise Windows. And if you scroll all the way down to the database support files here, we should find these two here. So ODBC driver 17 and 18, probably just get 18. Hit download on that and then install it, and then you'll be ready for the next step. Okay, so the next step is then once you have that installed, we've got our database set up ready to go. We can open ArcGIS Pro. All right, with ArcGIS Pro open, if I go to settings over here and we go to licensing, you can see I'm using an advanced license here. You need to be using a standard or an advanced license for the next bit, okay? So make sure you're on that. And then we'll just go start without template. And if this isn't open for you, just go to analysis and then tools and then search for Enterprise Geodatabase. And in here, you should be able to find Create Enterprise Geodatabase. That's the one you want. And it should look like this. So we can see we need the instance name, database, and a couple of other things. So for the instance name, we can go and get that from Azure. We go to the dashboard again, AGDB, and it's just this guy here. So we hit copy on that and go back to ArcGIS and put that in there. So the database is AGDB and the administrator is just our admin. We called it SDE admin when we set it up. And then for the geodatabase, this is the SDE owned schema one. You can also have that unticked and it'll set up the database with this account, but it's probably better to have it with SDE. So that's why we set up that SDE account on the database. So put in the password for the SDE user, and then for the authorization file, we actually need to go and get this file from ArcGIS Server. So if you remember, we installed ArcGIS Server on a Windows virtual machine. So we're going to go connect to that machine and grab a file from the program files from that installation itself. So wherever you installed ArcGIS Server from, that's where Enterprise Geodatabase gets its licensing from as well. It's called a keycodes file. Okay, so back on the machine, if we go over to Azure again, we can see we've got the ArcGIS Server host machine here, and it's got a particular IP address, so we're going to connect to that. by either its IP address or its domain name, just with remote desktop. So go remote desktop and either put in its IP address in here. In my case, we've set this up with the domain name, so I can connect by the domain name. And if you're unsure about any of this, refer to the videos in the playlist below where we set all this stuff up. So back on the machine here, if we go to Start and then File Explorer, we'll go into this PC and then C drive, Program Files, Esri, License 11.5, and then Sysgen. This should all be here if you've installed ArcGIS Server on the machine, okay? If you connect to the wrong machine, this won't be here. So make sure you connect to the right one. So we're going to copy the keycodes file, and then we're just going to put that in, I like to put it in D drive temp or C drive temp because we only need it for a little while. So once we're in there, back over to ArcGIS Pro, we go point it to this authorization file. So D drive temp, give it the keycodes file, and that is everything that we need set up. Hopefully we set up the database correctly and this runs properly. So we'll hit run, and we'll just go view details here to watch it going. So this is where it does all of its checks, so make sure that the SDE admin user has all the database privileges that it needs. It checks here that we've got the AGDB database and that it actually exists. And now it's going to check that it has a SDE user. And we can see that it's found that the SDE user has been created. Now it validates our authorization file and it's good. And then starts doing some work. So this will take quite a while to finish running while all these new tables are getting set up on the database. So we will cut back once this is all finished. Okay, and eventually you will have a finished Enterprise Geodatabase ready to go. So you can see here it took my process about almost 8 minutes. So don't worry if it takes a long time on your end as well. So let's go have a look at it now, eh? So when we go into the database now, maybe you have to do a refresh. Expand tables. Okay, you can see we've got all these SDE tables in here now. So let's just connect to it and make sure that it's working. So we'll need this connection file for ArcGIS Server as well later. So let's just go to databases, right click, and we'll go new database connection. And yeah, so we need this SDE-DB as the instance. We don't have any users in there yet, so I guess we can just use the SDE connection. Put in the username and the password for SDE, and then expand. So I've obviously got a connection from before, but if you expand this one, we should get a list of databases, and the AGDB database should show up here. Okay, finally AGDB shows up, so we can select it and then we hit OK to go and connect to it. Usually I find on first connection it can take a little while. Alright, now once connected, we should have this new connection file here. Let's just rename it so it looks a little bit nicer. AGDB SDE. Alright, rename to AGDB_SDE. Obviously if we expand it, there's going to be nothing in there. But what we can do is just check that it works. So we'll go right click, new feature class. And let's just close this guy. Alright, so we'll just call this new feature class test polygon. So we're just going to test it. Yeah, we can leave all of that. Just put in some fields in there. Just call it like name. So we got a text field, number. Okay.
and let's just do a float in there. Let's do a more normal WGS 84, and yeah, we'll just hit finish on that. Alright, that finally finished creating. It doesn't seem to have shown up here, so let's just see if we can refresh. And there we go, test polygon under just the SDE connection. So let's go have a look at it and see if we can create some data in there. Just make sure everything's working well. Make a map. So we'll just create a couple of blobs here. Drag that guy in. Alright, it's been added in now, so let's just go to edit, and then we'll just create a couple of polygons. Say polygon tool. Alright, so there's a couple of polygons. We'll just go into the attribute table and just put some data in here as well. Some text in that one, text in that one. Oh, okay. I think this is just Arc being Arc. Okay, so we got some data ready to go in here. Let's hit tick on that polygon. Finish the sketch. And there we go. It looks like the data is working and writing to the database pretty well. So we'll just hit remove on that, so we don't have that in there anymore. So we've got some data now in SDE, and it looks like everything's working pretty well. The only thing we have to do now is go and connect the SDE to ArcGIS Server and then make sure that validation works. So the way you do that is through this SDE file here, and you can find it by you can see the path there, where you can right click on it and go show in File Explorer, and this is that connection file here. So we're going to need that, so we'll go copy, and let's just put that in D drive temp where we put our key codes so we can delete it later. The other thing we have to do before we go and connect this to ArcGIS Server is we need to go into the ArcGIS Server machine, we still got it here, and we need to install an ODBC driver on it. So once again, open up, go to the server, and then we'll go to Edge and get the software. So that's just from the My Esri that I showed you earlier actually. Let's go to My Esri. Oh, that's strange. Anyway, we'll go to downloads and then ArcGIS Enterprise and scroll down to the database support files. And we'll just grab ODBC driver 18 here. Should be a quick download. Once that's downloaded, we're just going to install it on the ArcGIS Server machine. Extract, launch setup. Let's just close this. Don't need that anymore. And yeah, we just need all the defaults here. Just the driver. And we'll hit finish. Alright, so that's us done on the ArcGIS Server machine. So we'll just go and log out of there. Alright, and we're good to go. So we'll go to ArcGIS Server Manager. So if you don't know, it's just the whatever your site is / URL / manager. And then, yep, so under site, so I've been in here earlier obviously in the video, you go to site and then data stores, and then we're going to add a new one or register a new one. So we'll go database. We're going to go, we'll just call it, let's call it Enterprise Geodatabase. You might have a different name. And then when it goes publisher database connection, that's that SDE file that we saved earlier. So we go import, choose the file, and we put it on D drive temp, and then AGDB_SDE, and we'll import it. And with that imported, we can go create.
And this will take a little while to register. Once it's registered, we'll hit validate and make sure that it validates correctly. Okay, so that's finished registering, and it looks like it was registered successfully. So let's just go and validate everything, make sure it all works. So validate all. And there we go. So the Enterprise Geodatabase is registered. Our old data store obviously is registered and working. That was working before. But this is what you want. You want your 2 green ticks, and those 2 green ticks actually signify the last component of a base deployment of ArcGIS Enterprise. So congratulations for getting this far. I think the only thing we might want to do is just go and maybe publish something up and then see that if it turns up in Portal. So we'll just quickly go and do that now. So let's go have a look back in ArcGIS over here. We're going to have our test polygon again. We'll just add this one back in. Okay, with that polygon added back in, let's just close that. We'll just give it a bit of a better, like, we don't want SDE in the name, right, of the file. So we'll just call it test service now, because we're going to actually publish this up to ArcGIS Server. Alright, so we're going to go sign into the active server. So that's going to be, we're going to switch the active portal. We're going to actually go manage portals. I'm going to add in the new portal. So add portal. / ArcGIS, I think it was. So let's just put that one in. Okay, and then this is the portal we set up earlier in the series. So we'll go set that as active portal. And we're not signed in, so we'll sign into it. And we've only got the administrator account right now, so we'll have to use that. Sign in. Alright, so that was your ArcGIS Portal login details. If you already set up a member from when we went, like back when we set up Portal, you can go ahead and use that. I've only got the administrator account we've been using for this series, so I've just used that. Okay, so just sign into it. And once you're signed in, we should be able to then go share. And then we can either share as a web map or share as a web layer, I guess. We're going to share it as a web layer. Alright, so let's go ahead and name it just the test service. And you can choose what you want here. We'll just go map image, maybe check that the feature service works. We don't want copy, we want to use the registered connection. So we don't want to copy the data to a hosted feature service. We'll just put it in the admin root because we're going to delete it later. And that looks good. ArcGIS Server, we can just choose whatever group. We don't have any groups, but let's just make it public. And we'll hit analyze. A couple of warnings coming up. The warnings are okay, but the one that we want to consider changing is this one here. So, because that's going to stop us from publishing. Over in here, we just need to click allow. We'll hit allow on that. Okay, so these warnings here, they shouldn't stop us from publishing, so that's all good. So we'll just hit publish. So obviously you're making a real service, you want to make sure that there's no warnings, or at least you address them, you know what they are. But in our case, we just want to test that we can get from SDE to ArcGIS Server to ArcGIS Portal and then see it in the ArcGIS Portal front end, right? So not too worried about this, just want to make sure we test it. I will make some videos about actually publishing web services, making web maps and survey 1, 2, 3, all this sort of stuff later on. But our focus right now is just making sure that the SDE connection that we've set up is working. So let's just publish this and then we'll see how we go. Okay, that's finished publishing up. So let's go have a look. So it's provided us a handy URL here. So up on Portal now, we can see we've got the web map ready to go, and it's made up of this test service layer. So we'll just go and open that up, and we can see that that's gone straight up to ArcGIS Server,
and the data is coming from our feature class that we set up in ArcSDE. And look at that, that's working beautifully. And now we can go into here and we see this is connected to, if we go to source, this data should be connected directly to our SDE database, so the actual geodatabase. And if I go ahead and create a new feature here, directly in the database, like so, we hit tick on that one, make sure you don't need to save edits. Because it's connected straight up, we can see we've edited the database feature, and now when we refresh this, and you can see like as soon as we edit the database data in SDE or Enterprise Geodatabase, it now shows up in the web service as well. So that brings us to the end now. Very, very well done if you reached to this point. But throughout this series, you have set up a full enterprise level ArcGIS Enterprise deployment hosted in the cloud environment. You're using an SQL managed database as well for your SDE, which is great. You've connected all that up through ArcGIS Server, Portal. We've got data store. Your environment now is a nice solid piece of work that you can go ahead and build upon. So if you had any other extensions that you wanted to set up, the next step might be to set up your database schema and that sort of thing, maybe load in some data. And if you've been following my channel, you know that the previous video series was FME. So for me, the next step with this now really nice solid foundational ArcGIS and FME Enterprise GIS tech stack is we're going to go and connect to government hosted public data sources and then create data pipelines to write continuous data update processes into the ArcGIS Enterprise Geodatabase, which then we can go and create web maps out of further down in the series. So that's it for me for this series. Please stay tuned for the next ones where we start looking at data pipelines using FME. I might also give you guys a quick update on a project that I've been working on called GeoFlip. Maybe we'll do that one in the next video. You got a sneak peek of it throughout this particular series when we had to create that shapefile. But yeah, stay tuned guys, I really appreciate it. Like and subscribe as well if these series have helped you out too. So yeah, thanks. I'll see you in the next one.